Hi everyone! In this video I want to show you how I draw and paint a bird with watercolors. First I start with the sketch, and if you look at the bird you can start drawing the sketch with two simple shapes. Just pay attention to the sizes and which angle. After you have sketched out the two ovals, you can start measuring with your pencil or with a ruler if you like. By measuring the shapes on your reference photo, you can draw a more accurate sketch. When I sketch, I use an HB pencil because you don't want your sketch lines to end up too dark if you need to correct and erase a lot. So pay attention to that. Also, when you are sketching, you don't want to press too hard on your pencil, but just lightly draw the sketch lines, because you can damage your paper by pressing too hard. And after erasing, you will then still see the lines. I also use a kneaded eraser because this is softer than other erasers, and that way I make sure that I don't damage the watercolor paper. Now, once you're satisfied with your sketch, you can start with painting. I'm using watercolors, and a full material list with all of the exact colors I use are listed under the video. When you're painting with watercolors, you want to start with the lightest colors and then darken as you add more layers. So I look at my reference photo and start choosing the colors I want to use. After the first layer, you want to let that dry first before you add more layers on top. Knowing when to stop painting and let the layers dry is something you have to practice with. For me, it was a real challenge starting to paint with watercolors when you're used to a dry medium like colored pencils. But I really wanted to learn new techniques and how watercolors work, so I just started practicing. I was even hesitant in the beginning when I started painting this bird because I didn't really know what I was doing and if it would turn out how I wanted to. But that's actually the magic of watercolors. You don't know how it will turn out once the paint will dry, or how the colors will look once they dry. But that's something you have to learn through trial and error. If I wouldn't just start practicing, I wouldn't be able to learn from my own mistakes. So if you also feel that way when you are starting a new drawing or painting, or starting to practice with a new medium, tell yourself, if I don't start, I don't learn. And you don't have to create finished artwork if you are just starting out. You can just start with smaller things, like practicing your brush strokes first, or swatch all of the colors you have and start mixing new colors. When you are drawing something or painting, you can also add many different colors to add more interest. For example, when I'm painting this branch, I'm not just using light brown and dark brown for the shadows, but I'm using purples and oranges and even blue for the shadows. That's why it's important to get to know your colors first and mix all kinds of different colors with each other to see which colors you get. If you look at things in nature, they're not just one color. If you look at a leaf, for example, you would think it's just different shades of green. But you might also see some yellow because of the sunlight shining, or you could see some orange, purple, or blue in the shadow color because of the reflected light shining back on the leaf. Maybe from a flower or something else that's next to the leaf. So before you start picking out your colors, study your reference photo closely and look at all of the different colors you see. You can even go outside in your garden or somewhere else and look at a flower or tree branch and look at all of the colors you see. Learning how to see and observe is very important when you are learning to draw or paint. Now I'm using a size 0 brush for the smallest details. And I'm going to add a bit more darker colors to create depth and more contrast. Here I'm using a white acrylic marker for the brightest highlights. I use this marker in all of my drawings or paintings. Adding a highlight makes the eye stand out right away and look more realistic. The link to the exact brand I'm using is under the video. Once the white paint has dried, I use a black colored pencil and go over a part of the highlight. That way the highlight doesn't just have one value. If you don't have acrylic paint, you could also use some white gouache with a small paintbrush for the brightest highlights. After the first few layers, you can paint in smaller sections, so when you are painting one section, the other section can already start drying. That way you don't have to wait every time for your layers to dry. By the way, if you want to learn more with me, I have real-time tutorials where you get the reference photo and my sketch to start practicing with. You can go to emikalia.com or click on the link under the video. With a small brush like the size 1 or 0, you can add all of the details. Depending on the look you are going for, you can add more or less details. You are the artist and can choose how you want your painting to look. I usually don't like adding backgrounds because I like a more clean, minimalistic look. But that's just preference. What helps me decide is I think about, would I like to hang this on my wall? Would I like this with a busy background full of color, or a soft blurry background, or no background, so that the focus is on the bird? That's what you can ask yourself when you are finishing your painting. Now, I couldn't resist using some colored pencils. I'm just using two colors, white and ivory. And I'm using the pencils to add some highlights, because you can't do this with watercolors. Instead of colored pencils, you could also use some acrylic paint or gouache. With the small brush, I go back to add some final details. And it's finished. I don't want to keep adding details and overwork my painting. So when you have that feeling, it's time to stop. When I started with this bird, I wanted to go for a bit of a softer look, but that's something I will need to practice with. And I am satisfied with how this one turned out. I really hope you were able to learn something from this video. And let me know if you have any questions by leaving a comment below. Also, give a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Now, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!